Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, Mysterious Voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I want to talk about some poetry of interest, and we are at the end of Spooktober, but we are still in Spooktober, so I want to focus on another somewhat spooky, darker themed poem. And today's poem is all about a lonely boatman in a desolate world or desolate landscape. I am referring to In the Past by Trumbull Stickney. For those who don't know, Trumbull Stickney was an American poet, a Harvard-trained poet, which doesn't really mean a lot when you think about it, but apparently a lot of people really like Harvard. He was a Harvard-trained poet who many people felt had a lot of promise. Unfortunately, he died at the age of 30 from a brain tumor or something like that, and so he had published some work, but there was still probably a lot that he didn't get to write. And I do think the poem that I'm going to talk about today does indicate a lot of promise, but I also think it's generally a good poem. So who knows what he may have written had he lived longer, but we can only speculate. And so without further ado, let's talk about this poem. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. In the past. There lies a somnolent lake under a noiseless sky, where never the mornings break, nor the evenings die. Mad flakes of color whirl on its even face, iridescent and streaked with pallor, and warding the silent place. The rocks rise sheer and gray from the sedulous brink to the sky, dull lit with the light of pale half-day through a void space and dry. And the hours lag dread in the air, with a sense of coming eternity, to the heart of the lonely boatman there, that boatman am I. I in my lonely boat, a waif on the somnolent lake, watching the colors creep and float with the sinuous track of a snake. Now I lean o'er the side, and lazy shades in the water see, lapped in the sweep of a sluggish tide, crawled in from the living sea. And next I fix mine eyes so long that the heart declines on the changeless face of the open skies where no star shines. And now to the rocks I turn, to the rocks around, that lie like walls of a circling sun wherein lie bound the waters that feel my powerless strength and meet my homeless oar, laboring over their ashen length never to find a shore. But the gleam still skims at times of the somnolent lake, and a light there is that swims with the whirl of a snake. And though dead be the hours in the air, and dayless in the sky, the heart is alive of the boatman there, that boatman am I. In terms of analysis, there's quite a bit we're talking about with this poem, and that was In the Past. A very interesting title for the poem. Why is this in the past? Is this sort of talking about some primordial sort of existence of humanity, something like that? I don't really know about that, but the title does beg a lot of questions there. What's very interesting about the poem is the focus. So it focuses on a boatman, and it's just talking about the world around him, not a very desolate place. In the beginning of the poem, he says, "And the hours lag dead in the air, with a sense of coming eternity, to the heart of the lonely boatman there, that boatman am I." Why do the hours lag dead in the air with a sense of coming eternity? Eternity certainly suggests, that this boatman might be immortal. That this boatman is just, kind of hanging in this lake, maybe has a certain function. I in my lonely boat, a waif on the somnolent lake, watching the colors creep and float with the sinuous track of a snake. Now I lean over the side, and the lazy shades in the water see, lapped in the sweep of a sluggish tide, crawled in from the living sea. And that certainly seems to suggest a lot. That it has a mythical element to it, where the boatman is just waiting on the lake. Is he the timekeeper? The destiny kind of figure, just watching, like, is the tide humanity? Is the tide all of human history? Is the lake part of that? And the boatman is just, sort of going about and affecting the world around him. It does sort of also make me think of Charon from Greek mythology, the boatman of the river Styx. Is that what's going on here? I do think Stickney is kind of alluding to that in this poem. And kind of suggesting a lot about what he thinks like our like time represents, or what he thinks all of humanity represents, and the inevitability of it all, of how it's all going to be gone, or how we're just in this lake, and that's the summation of humanity right there. It's very interesting in what Stickney is trying to say. But another verse is also kind of leaving me with a lot of questions. Later it says, "The waters that feel my powerless strength and meet my homeless oar," which homeless oar is certainly an interesting description, "laboring over their ashen length, never to find a shore." Why is the oar not finding a shore? Certainly when you eventually meet the shore of the lake, you would, like the oar would meet the shore too, so you can climb aboard. But is this boatman just kind of there forever? Again, that would kind of give credence to the mythical element, to the supernatural element in this story. And it certainly suggests that in the poem. And the landscape kind of seems desolate as well. Like the rocks rise sheer and gray from the sedges spring to the sky, dull lit with the light of pale half day through a void space and dry. Again, another sort of verse that suggests a desolate landscape around them, leading to death, or even just eternity itself. This is what all of time looks like, or something like that. So it's a very fascinating boatman. I like how Stickney is describing this boatman here, leaving a lot of mystery, but also certainly suggesting a few things here and there. Anyway, those are my thoughts on In the Past by Trumbull Stickney. Pretty awesome poem, I would say. Definitely one of the better ones that I read in this month. Leaving a lot to the imagination, and also kind of creeping me out as I read it. When I found it, I was like, wow, this is definitely a fit for Spooktober. So let me know what you think in the poem below. I'll put a link to it in the description, so let me know your thoughts are. If you have any thing to say about my review in particular. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this channel, or this poet, or this poem if they don't know about any of those things. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and boatman-related travels. Or boat women, because women can be boatmen too. Farewell.